Hi there, everyone. My name is Prerak Juthani. I'm an MDMA student here at Yale, and today I'm going to go over a workshop that I made with a few classmates of mine on how to write a cover letter. This is Wesley, Jen, and Nico, and this is me. And we're just going to go over what it takes to build a cover letter because we realized that some of the fundamentals are not always explicitly stated. So let's rectify that. So before we get too much into the details, here is a sample cover letter on the left, and this is my cover letter for an internship that I applied to last year, and it worked. I actually did get the internship. So hopefully we're going to break down this cover letter piece by piece and show you exactly what it takes to write a cover letter. You can see that there's several parts of this. There's a template header, as well as the address of the individuals that you're sending the letter to. Even though you're going to send most of these letters online, it's still customary as of right now to include that letter address just in case, as well as an introduction, body paragraphs, conclusion, as well as at the bottom here. Usually you include your city, your phone number, and email. It's not on here, obviously, because I didn't want to include my phone number on this video. But the point is you would include it at the bottom, usually in small letters, because in the off chance that they read the letter and want to talk to you, they have a place to reach you. So you put that right there. So now let's boil it down to the fundamentals. So you can see here that at the top there's usually a template header. This should be related to the institution that you're a part of. So for me, I'm at the Yale School of Management, so all I need to do is go to the Yale School of Management website and type in cover letter header, and they usually have that pop up. If you are not at Yale and you are instead in the undergrad institution, you look at your undergrad institution and see if you can find a nice little thumbnail like this that you can put at the header of your letter, because this is intended to show people where you're coming from and where your affiliation is. If you are not in an institution, take the last institution that you were a part of and utilize that. The second part is the address. You can see here I included the address of the place that I'm sending the cover letter to. And then the next thing is that this should be about 1 page in length. Rarely do cover letters go above 1 page, at least in my business experience and many of my business school classmates' experience. I have not seen a cover letter that goes above a page, but again, I could be wrong. But in our purposes, we want to keep it to about a page. And again, as I said, at the bottom, the footer of the letter should include the city that you're writing from, your phone number, as well as email, in the off chance that they look at the letter and want to follow up with you about something, which is usually a good sign. So I told you that we're going to go through each of these steps one by one. So the first thing is we went over the header and the address. Let's go into the introduction now. So the introduction, usually you want to introduce yourself, your background, and where you're from. Introduce whatever it is that brings you to this job process. So in this case, I would say I'm Prerak, I'm an MD/MBA student at Yale, and I have an interest in your job at Geisinger. The next thing is, almost always the most important part of a cover letter is to include any connection that you have to the institution. So for example, in this case, I mentioned an individual who I know worked at Geisinger in the past, and the fact that I talked to her about her experience. This is where this aspect of networking that everyone always talks about comes in. If you really want a job, you should talk to enough people at that job. And then if you're in your cover letter, you need to mention, hey, I talked to Steve. Steve works in HR. He says that this is a great place to work, and that's why I'm applying. You need to mention that in the cover letter, because when they see that level of familiarity, they'll say, oh, Prerak knows Steve. Everyone loves Steve, so we'll probably love Prerak, you know? So you want to include that connection in the cover letter. And at the end of your first paragraph, you should usually end with something like, if I got this job, here are the skills that I'm hoping that I will bring to this. Some bonus points that can earn you some extra brownie points to make an exceptional cover letter in the first paragraph is the fact that you start with an opening line that someone else isn't going to write. So it should highlight what makes you uniquely interested or qualified. But again, this is bonus points. You don't always have to do this. The other thing is the introductory paragraph and the cover letter in general need not be very long. Mine is usually around 3 to 4 sentences, but it can be 5. And all it needs to do in the end of the day is tell me where you're applying and why you're applying for that position. Next up, we have the body paragraph. The body paragraph is perhaps the most convoluted part of the cover letter, and yet not so convoluted, because people make it out to be a bit more complex than it needs to be. The body paragraphs need to explain why you're a good fit for the role, And I have just usually broken this down into selecting three characteristics that would make me a good fit for the role that I'm applying to. So, for example, if you're applying to a consulting role, you may include elements of why you're a strong problem solver, have great client-facing skills, are a strong communicator, and maybe you want to talk about the fact that you've worked with different stakeholders. For me, I often pick three characteristics that I think are part of my personality that would be a good fit for the job I'm applying to. For the most part, these characteristics don't have to change. But for example, if you're applying to HR in one job and then in another job you're applying to be an engineer, chances are you probably want to change the characteristics because different skills are needed for both. But you can make them relatively simple, and oftentimes a bullet point list is more than okay. So again, here you can see that for each body paragraph, I usually write a header sentence that succinctly captures the skill that I'm going to bring to the role. And then oftentimes bulleted sections work best. And each story that you write underneath the bulleted section should complement that characteristic and often be pulled from in your resume. So that brings us to the body paragraph. So we're done with the intro, we're done with the body. Let's now go to the conclusion. The conclusion is actually very simple. Just say thank you for the opportunity to apply to your institution. I hope you understand that I want to make a big impact. And honestly, shorter tends to be better. Say that you're excited and that you're excited to continue talking, and then you can just sign off. Again, no one usually spends too long looking at a cover letter, from my experience. And this is intended to purely show the connections you have and how the skills on your resume translate to the job. So, if you follow these skills, hopefully you will do it. You'll get a successful cover letter. And hopefully this video covered all the detail you need to make a decent one. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like, comment, share, subscribe, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.